Hello and welcome to the Ross Cloud Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Ross Sr., and this platform was created to motivate and to inspire in hopes that you will be a better you. I'd like to give a shout out to everybody that's listening all over the world. Thank you guys for tuning in. And as you know, today is our first Friday of the month with Miss Psychotherapist Beth Kincaid. This is our time of healing. So we're not going to hold you up. We're going to go ahead and get back into it. And thank you guys for the feedback. We're going to try to keep this going. Remember, the premise of the show is to help you become a better you. All right. Happy Friday, everybody. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Hello, Beth. How are you?
Good. I hope you are.
Yes, I'm doing wonderful. What you got for us today?
So today I thought I'd talk about communicating effectively because
good one.
Many people come to see me about communication issues with their family or spouse or partner or coworker or neighbor or whoever. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So
yay, my favorite. So glad you're doing this. And I didn't even know you was doing this. Great.
So I think a lot of people think effective communication is just about talking, but it really isn't. The goal is not just to exchange information, but you also want to understand the emotion and the intentions behind the information that somebody is trying to give you, as well as being able to clearly give the message, get that message across that you're trying to convey. So you need to listen in a way that gains the full meaning of what's being said and makes the other person feel heard and understood and validated. We may say one thing and the other person hears something else and misunderstands or gets frustrated, and then you end up having conflicts with people because of that misunderstanding. And so that can cause problems at school and at home and in work relationships. And so you want to learn skills that can deepen your connection to other people and build greater trust and respect and improve teamwork, problem solving, your overall social and emotional health as well. So when you think about what stops you from communicating effectively, think about what barriers keep you from doing that. There's several of them. One of them is feeling stressed or out of control emotions. That can get in the way when you're trying to express yourself. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you might misread other people, or you might send confusing or off-putting nonverbal signals. You can't think clearly if you're stressed or angry or upset, and so you may end up giving the opposite message than you're intending to give. So to avoid that, you want to calm yourself down and try to get yourself to stop and think about what the message is you really want to convey. Lack of focus, you can't communicate effectively if you're multitasking or you're on the phone or you're planning what you're trying to do next or you're daydreaming or you're watching TV. You get distracted easily, and so you're not going to be able to express what you want to express clearly. Sometimes I think we get too close to a situation to see clearly. And so,
ouch.
Yeah, we need to stop and step back from the situation.
Yeah.
And see it a little more objectively. Inconsistent body language, nonverbal communication should reinforce what you're trying to say, not contradict it. So if you're saying, oh, I'm relaxed, but your body language is all scrunched up and tense and you look angry, that kind of counteracts what you're trying to convey.
Wow.
Power issues sometimes can be something that gets in the way. For instance, if you're trying to talk or communicate with a teacher or a coach or a minister or a boss or an in-law, a police officer or somebody that has authority, that makes it a little more difficult for you to feel comfortable about what you're saying. Too many things going on in your head can feel very overwhelming and make it really hard to stay on one topic.
Agreed.
And if you listen, you want to listen to understand instead of trying to go along with your own agenda. You want to try to understand what the other person's needs or goals are as well.
That's good.
and think about what you're going to focus on, what you're going to say instead of what you're trying to make them do.
Gotcha.
Or hear.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about nonverbal communications and body language, you can have negative body language, such as avoiding eye contact or folding your arms in front of yourself, which is kind of a barrier, or tapping your feet, moving around papers, not focusing on what the other person says. That can put the other person on the defensive because they feel like you're not listening, so they don't feel like they're important to you.
Yeah. A lot of husbands, we need to get that in.
That's very true. And wives do the same thing.
Right.
So you want to hone your skills. So the first one is becoming an engaged listener. So when you communicate with other people, we want to focus on, like I said, trying to understand not just the words the person's trying to say to you, but the intention and the emotion behind it.
Yeah.
So if you're engaged, you're actually not just listening to the words. You're watching how that person feels about that and how intense that is.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll have some different intonations in their voice. Their tone can change. And so that can give you some information about what they're feeling. And so it's really, really important to validate the feelings behind it, the physical and emotional well-being of that person.
Wow.
So something we're not aware of sometimes, I think, is when you say to somebody, I hear that you say this, you're saying this, and I think you're wonderful, but, and that one but word erased everything you just said to them.
Yeah.
So it feels better if you say and. So that's a thing to think about when you're trying to make a point.
Sure.
And you want to start off positive. Say and if you're trying to make a second point behind it.
Like that, yeah.
The other thing I think that happens with that is that we tend to want to communicate a lot of different issues at one time, points, and that it gets lost when you're trying to do so many things. And so if you make a point and you validate somebody, you also don't want to jump in right behind that and say, well, these are all my problems.
I got you.
Because, again, that's going to take away from, what you just validated.
Sure.
You need to talk about your problems on another day, right?
Yeah.
So you want to also focus fully on that person that's speaking, kind of like imagining them holding the talking stick and not interrupt,
Yes.
And trying to redirect the conversation to what your needs are. You're trying to focus on what whoever's speaking's needs.
Sure.
Interestingly enough, when I was doing a little bit of research, they said favor your right ear when you're trying to listen to someone because the left side of your brain contains primary processing centers for both speech comprehension and emotions. And so the left side of your brain is connected to the right side of your body, weirdly enough. So actually, if something is injured in your body, you may sometimes feel pain on the other side,
right.
Which is odd, but that's true. So when you're trying to listen, it will help you to detect the emotional nuances of what somebody's trying to say by listening with your right ear. Interesting.
Yeah, right? That is interesting. Wow. Wow.
And so show your interest in what is being said by acknowledging, smiling, saying,
Yeah.
Try to set aside judgment and listen objectively instead of trying to blame or think of all the criticism you want to give them.
Yeah.
You just want to hear what their perspective is.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree.
That's right.
You just want to hear what they're trying to communicate.
That's right.
And then you want to provide feedback to the other person, but again, objectively.
Yeah.
This is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Sounds like this is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That sounds really hard.
Yeah.
You're just validating what they're feeling instead of you telling them whether you think it's good, bad, right, or wrong.
Yeah.
And so again, hear the emotions behind the words so that you can hear the intensity of where they are with it.
Yeah.
And take that into consideration. So skill number 2 is you want to pay attention to nonverbal signals, which we were just talking about, body language,
Yes.
body movement, facial expressions, gestures, eye contact, posture, the tone of your voice, and even your muscle tension and breathing. So the eye contact is really important, but you don't have to necessarily look into their eyes. You can look between their eyes at your third eye.
I got you.
Third eye.
Yeah.
At their nose, at their cheeks, just in that general vicinity.
Yes.
Even right above the head if you're uncomfortable looking at somebody.
Yes.
Because they just know you're paying
attention. Yeah.
Right. They have
good point.
Attention.
Yeah.
And that's real helpful in validating somebody. So you can enhance that effective communication by using open body language, your arms uncrossed, standing with an open stance, sitting on the edge of your seat, maintaining eye contact with the person you're talking to. You can also use body language yourself to enhance your message. So you can pat somebody on the back while you're saying, oh, I'm so sorry you're going through that. Or complimenting them on their success, pound your fist on the table to emphasize. Some of us use our hands more than others.
Yes.
So to improve how you read nonverbal verbal communication, be aware of individual differences that people from different countries and cultures tend to use different nonverbal communication.
Very good
gestures.
point. Yeah.
So it's important to take age, culture, religion, gender, and emotional state into account when you're reading body language.
Yeah.
An American teen, a grieving widow, and an Asian businessman, for example, likely will use very different mannerisms.
Yes.
And so you want to try not to judge those things, but just take it into consideration. Look at nonverbal communication signals as a group. So you don't want to read too much into a single gesture or a nonverbal cue. You just kind of want to consider it all together.
Yeah.
And try not to make assumptions, because I know that when a lot of people think deeply, their brow furrows. And some people looking at them might think they're upset, but they're really not. They're just trying to think.
That's all it is.
Exactly. So
if you're me, you're trying to see.
Exactly.
Focus a little bit.
And you can always ask, is this what you're going through right now, or am I just making that up in my head? So you want to use nonverbal signals that match up with your words rather than contradict them. So if you're saying, I'm happy, I'm feeling great, but you look very depressed and sad, that doesn't really
it doesn't
equate.
That's right.
And then your listener might be more confused, or they might feel like you're not being honest with them.
True.
So sitting with your hands crossed, shaking your head doesn't match the words that you're saying you agree with the other person.
Right.
Oh, yes, while you're shaking your head.
We see it happening all the time, too, Beth. Man.
We do, for sure. Adjust your nonverbal signals according to the context as well. So the tone of your voice should be different when you're addressing a child than when you're addressing a group of adults.
Yes.
And take into, again, account the emotional state and cultural background of the person that you're interacting with. So some cultures, they actually don't want you to have eye contact.
Yeah.
And so that's something you need to be aware of.
True.
But how do they know that you're listening?
Yeah.
And again, reflecting back what they're saying and what you're hearing to confirm can be a way of doing that.
Absolutely.
Avoid negative body language. People might, when they're nervous on a first date or in a job interview, they might put their head down or put their eyes to the side and act shy and slide around in the chair. Or instead, you want to try standing tall and smiling and maintaining that eye contact and being confident. And a firm handshake, isn't that what we've all been taught?
All been taught that. That's right.
A firm elbow bump or whatever, I guess now is the thing. So that you can feel more confident and it helps put the other person at ease.
True.
So the third skill is keep your stress in check. So even though you may be going through a stressful time in a disagreement with someone, You want to try to breathe and keep yourself calm while you're talking about it.
Yes.
Because you don't want to say something you're going to regret because you can't take it back.
Cannot.
And it also helps calm the other person down and keep them calm. And it helps you when you're in a job interview or whatever to feel less stressed yourself so that you can say what you feel like you need to say effectively. So communicating effectively by staying calm under pressure, that's the goal.
Yeah.
You can, to do that, you can use your stalling tactics to give yourself time to think. So I've seen people on TV,
Yes.
and I've heard people comment on this. What they say when asked a difficult question is,
Yeah.
could you repeat that, please? I'm not sure I heard that correctly.
Right.
Or that's a really good question. And in that time, they're getting time to think about what they really want to say.
Yeah.
Or how they want to answer that. Or you can ask for clarification. What exactly did you mean by that?
Yeah.
I just want to be clear. You can pause for a minute and be silent to collect your thoughts, that it's okay to pause instead of rushing and saying something you really didn't
regret saying.
Whoops, I shouldn't have said that. Make one point and then provide an example or a supporting piece of information. If your response is too long or you waffle about it, then you risk losing people's interest. They really want just a concise answer.
Yeah.
Deliver your words clearly.
Yeah.
So if you're mumbling and people don't feel like you really know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But if you're clear and maintain an even tone and eye contact and your body language is relaxed and open, then they're much more apt to trust you or believe what you're saying.
Absolutely.
So wrap up with a summary and then stop. And at that point, that's when you're supposed to summarize what has just been said and ask, what did you hear me say?
Yeah.
That's
Good point.
Quick stress relief for effective communication. Deep breath. You can kind of tense your muscles and relax them, right? Recognize when you're becoming stressed and when your muscles start to tense, because that's the time you want to get them to relax more. And take a moment to calm down before deciding to go into a further conversation.
Yeah.
And you can actually say, let me have a minute just to think about that.
Yeah.
To take that in.
True.
Bring your senses to the rescue. So light, sight, thinking about what do I taste? What do I feel? What do I smell? What do I see? What do I hear? That helps you get in touch with yourself and ground yourself in the moment.
Yes.
Using a stress ball or something in your pocket, popping a peppermint in your mouth.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things can distract your brain and relax you a little bit. Look for humor in the situation, because that's a great way to relieve stress.
Great way.
In communicating.
Great way.
So when you or those around you start talking seriously, you can maybe bring up a joke or something funny that you heard about that.
Yeah.
Be willing to compromise. Sometimes if you bend a little, you can reach a happy medium with other people.
Yes.
You don't have to be so strict about it.
Yeah.
Agree to disagree. We were just talking about that earlier.
Absolutely.
So you just take time away from the situation and have it be okay to have different beliefs.
Absolutely. It's okay.
Yeah. Assert yourself is the fourth skill. So there's a difference between being aggressive and assertive.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Do you know what the difference is?
I would like to hear it.
So aggression is more forceful, and it involves you trying to change somebody or make somebody else do something.
Yes.
And people's response to aggression normally is to be defensive or to be aggressive back, right?
Yeah, one of the two.
So that's not going to get anybody to hear anything.
Not at all.
Being assertive is really about making yourself clearly communicate.
Correct.
And can boost your self-esteem and your decision-making skills. You just want to express your thoughts and feelings and needs in an open and honest way while standing up for yourself. And what that means is to not be hostile about it or demanding or trying to force people. You just want to say, this is how I see this. This is what my needs are and what I would like to happen.
Yeah.
So you want to know what your needs and your wants are, and
Absolutely.
be clear about that.
Yes.
If you don't know, you're not going to be able to communicate that very well.
Not at all. Not at all.
And you don't want to infringe on the other people's rights that you're talking
That's
to
true, too.
either.
That's true,
and
too.
especially if you don't know what their experience has been, you really
Man.
can't judge them.
No,
if
you
have
can't.
not walked in their shoes.
Not at all. That's
Yeah.
right.
Express negative thoughts in a positive way. So it's okay to be mad, but you
Yeah.
still want to be respectful.
Yes. Yes.
Receive feedback positively, accept compliments graciously. So if somebody says something nice to you, what you say back to them is, well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of us tend to downplay that and try to say why
I know it.
compliment was not true. But you don't need to do that.
And you hear that too.
Yeah.
From people in our society today.
Mm-hmm.
No one believes in saying thank you and you're welcome anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
I
That's
don't know
very
what
true.
happened to that, but okay.
Learn to say no and know your limits, and learn to kick yourself under the table and not say yes when you don't really want to do something.
Well, let me ask you a question, Beth. Why do you think it's so hard for people to say no? They end up just saying yes. Okay, yeah, I can do it. Okay, yeah, sure.
I think we want everybody to like us. We think we want
We
everybody
think
to
that, yes.
like us, but we really don't, because
Yeah.
if everybody did, we would be in a very bad place.
True.
It would be exhausting, and you can't please everybody. So we really don't want that. Look for alternatives, and delegate,
Yeah.
and that helps everyone feel good and
Yes.
comfortable with the outcome.
Yes.
So to develop a communication techniques, you want to have an empathetic assertion,
Yeah.
which basically means, I know you've been very busy at work, but I want you to make time for us as well.
Yeah.
So you're empathizing with, I know what you're going through, and you're also important to me, so I
Yes.
also want to spend time with you.
Yes.
If we can
True.
do a balance.
True.
Yeah.
True.
So again, you're trying to assert your feelings and your needs,
Yes.
but then also understanding that the other person has needs too.
Absolutely.
Escalating assertion can be employed when your first attempts are not successful. So the first time you bring it up and the person doesn't hear or follow through, then you say, if you don't abide by this contract, I'll be forced to pursue legal action. Again, that's being clear and assertive
Yeah.
and truthful,
Absolutely.
but it's still a little more forceful
Yes.
than others.
Yes.
Practice assertiveness in lower risk situations to help yourself build confidence. And so situations you're not comfortable in,
Yeah.
talking to other people or asking for help,
Yes.
then you practice saying hello to strangers as you're going down the street.
Yes.
Practice having eye contact with them at that point.
Yeah.
Go to the store, you ask for help from one of the people there that are there to help you.
Yeah.
And that can help you to get a little more comfortable the more you do that there.
Sure.
And so the last part I just kind of wanted to bring up is there's something that I do with couples that I find to be really helpful.
Yeah.
I think when we're in conversations with people, like I said, we tend to bring every little thing into it.
Yes.
And you can't fix everything at one time.
It's difficult.
So it's helpful, to make a list of what those things are that you want to resolve.
Yeah.
But then just pick one at a time.
Yeah.
And pick somebody to talk about it first.
Yes.
Or talk about their issue first, and then the other person can use their issue later.
Yes.
And when you're speaking, you want to have the speaker be the only one talking. So you agree on the rules. We're not going to yell. We're not going to curse. We're not going to cut each other down or whatever during the conversation.
That's right. That's right.
And then whoever speaks gets about 5 minutes to get their point across.
Yeah.
Without the other person interrupting.
That is difficult in this podcast world.
It is very difficult in any world.
In any world, let me say that.
Because we want to interrupt, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's important because otherwise you're not hearing. We come into the conversation assuming we know what the other person wants to say and how they're going to react and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we really don't know exactly what their agenda is.
No, we don't.
So it's important for us to really listen to hear and understand where that other person's coming from.
Yes.
Whether you agree or not, it doesn't really matter.
That's right.
And then to reflect back to them afterwards what are you hearing me say?
Yeah.
This is what I'm hearing you say. And then that person that's speaking gets to say, that's not really what I wanted you to hear. Let me try to clarify it a little bit more and see if I can get you to understand what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
And or if they say, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted you to hear.
Yeah, yeah.
Then after that, if you can agree on what's being said, then the person gets to say, this is what I would like to have happen.
Yeah.
You know, we need to change this situation because it's not working for me.
Right, right.
What can we do differently to change it? Because if you don't change something, nothing's changing.
Nothing's changing at all.
And do you think we can do that? So the other person agrees, yes, we can try this different thing that we haven't been doing and see if that works or not. But you also have to come up with a follow-up time to come back and talk to each other and say, is this working? Have we really made those changes?
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then everybody forgets about it, and then nothing ever gets resolved.
Ain't that the truth? That's so true, man. Oh, man, I love it. I was talking to a good friend of mine, and he is having, I think, not all of us, but a pretty good amount of us. I'm 51, so a lot of us in our age group, we're still kind of getting acclimated to this text thing. And some of us still have our old school values from our parents. You know, our parents have some old school values, and the communication part so far as we love face to face. We love to talk about things, but because
you can see the body language.
Yeah, but the generation before us, everything is text. So I think a lot of us are having a hard time dealing with the actual technology part.
So that's one of those barriers we were talking about.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And there's two sides to that. I feel like it's not good because you don't see the body language. You don't necessarily hear the tone, or you think there's a tone that's really not.
It's really not there. Yeah.
But it does help if you have like a parent and a child or two spouses that are arguing, and part of the argument is the tone and the voice.
Understood, yeah.
At the minute that you hear the tone, then that just brings out the gun.
Yeah.
So sometimes it works better to have a written conversation.
Understood.
Because that person can't take what they've said back. And there are a lot of people that do that in text or email on purpose because they want to be able to say, when the other person says, I never said that,
Got you.
they can go back and say, look, it's right here.
Yeah, good point.
So there's good and bad things about that kind of communication. Yeah,
thank you for bringing some clarity to that. I know we was talking about it, man, and he was just up here about it.
Yeah.
I was like, well, man, you have to take it for what it is. I couldn't read between the lines and what was being said either, so it was difficult for me, but I don't think you have to harp on it and stay there. Hopefully you'll get a chance to talk.
No, but you can try to clarify.
Yeah, I mean, that was my thing.
What you're trying to say, because that's what
so
I'm
what
hearing.
are you saying?
Right,
what are you saying in this text? I think he could have sent back that and said, so what are you saying?
Yeah.
What's going on?
And another way to say it, actually, that I think really helps, which sounds less defensive, is to say, when you say that to me, just now, the message I got was this. This is what I heard.
Gotcha.
Is that what you wanted me to hear?
Understood. Yeah.
And if you said it this way, it might feel better to me, or it would have felt better, or I might take it better.
Yeah. Well, Beth, I tell you, it's always a pleasure to have you here on the platform and give us some great words of wisdom, even from your expertise. And, we're very appreciative of this here at the Ross Cloud Podcast.
Yes, I wanted to add before we start. Quick,
go ahead.
My website is Beth, B-E-T-H-C, Kincaid, Kincaid.com. So at any of these talks that we're going to have, I'm going to have a corresponding article that deals with that same topic. So if you missed something or whatever, you're welcome to go there. And it's under the Words to Grow By section. And you can look there for more information about that topic.
All right. You guys heard it here first on the Ross Cloud Podcast. Keep it locked and stay tuned. There's more to come from the Ross Cloud Podcast. And thank you guys for tuning in with our session of healing with psychotherapist Beth Kincaid. Make it a great day and keep being great. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at The Ross Cloud Podcast. Make sure you continue to follow us at Instagram at The Ross Cloud Podcast 12. You can also listen to the audio at shows.acast.com, Ross Cloud Podcast. Make it a great day and keep being great. Peace.